coming up.
What was it like turning up here each day?
It's just walking into a ticking time bomb, waiting for something to go wrong.
Meet daycare operator John Tanios.
That was a one-off issue.
John, it should never happen. Children eating food off floors.
Would you trust Mr. Tanios with your child?
Happened that one time? It may have happened 2 times, 3 times. I don't know.
That's next on 60 Minutes.
The fact there's big money to be made looking after little kids has broken the childcare industry. You'd think its motto would be care at all costs. Instead, the cost of care seems to dominate the thinking at many of the businesses that operate childcare facilities. The desire for profits means centres are understaffed, which in turn is leading to innocent children being mistreated. In some cases, the abuse or neglect they're suffering beggars belief. Currently, there are 1.5 million little Australians in the childcare system. An enormous number of them deserve much better care than they're currently receiving. When you drop your child off at daycare, you can only hope someone like Felicity will be there to look after them.
I've always loved being around kids, just knowing that I have an influence in their life.
The 19-year-old has almost finished her Certificate 3 in childcare and is passionate about early childhood education and the crucial role it plays in our kids' development.
I'm preparing the next generation. That first couple of years is quite vital, so it's very important that we get things right with education and how we treat them.
It's a lesson Felicity says she had to learn the hard way. And if the first 6 months of her career taught her anything, it's what not to do when you're trusted to care for and nurture little and vulnerable children.
I wasn't being trained to be an educator. I was trained to be a babysitter, to just get through the day.
How many kids would you find yourself looking after?
Maximum, I was with 22 children in one room. It was very overwhelming.
That's got to take its toll on you day after day.
Sorry. It's done. I haven't really thought about it. But it was quite hard to go into work every day, having that there's only so much that can do when you're dealing with the stuff that I had to deal with.
Tonight, the big business of little people. How greed has seen a $20 billion industry cash in on our kids.
Look, there's no doubt that childcare centres are lucrative.
And the case that made Australia realise just how broken our childcare system really is.
He is attempting to penetrate babies. These are allegations of the most horrific and worst kind.
It's not easy for Felicity to speak out against the industry she loves and one she hopes to work in for many years to come. But she's doing it because she wants to better protect educators and, more importantly, safeguard children in childcare.
I just want to give children their best start to life.
We're on our way to Angel's Paradise, where Felicity worked for 6 months as an apprentice childcare worker. When we arrive, the doors are shut, toys are weathered, and there isn't a little one in sight. It's because this privately operated daycare centre in Wagga Wagga in regional New South Wales was so poorly run, its operation was suspended last year by the Department of Education. Since 2019, the daycare had never met national quality standards, only ever achieving, working towards, the second lowest ranking in the government's rating system. What was it like turning up here each day?
It's just walking into a ticking time bomb, waiting for something to go wrong.
Felicity was just 17 when she started working at Angel's Paradise. Too young to have a working with children check, she was never to be left alone with a child. But she says the centre was so understaffed, she would often be left to fend for herself in a room full of distressed babies.
I'd have to, unfortunately, leave some babies crying to get another baby, and I would just have crying babies around me. It was very overwhelming.
Like many parents, Peter Davis struggled to find childcare for his son. The toddler was on a waiting list for 12 months before a spot came up at Angel's Paradise. But after only a few months of attending the centre, the former police officer's child started coming home with unexplained injuries.
There was a head injury where he had a large egg on his head and they couldn't explain how that had occurred.
It's not pleasant to look at, but it was these filthy nappies his child would still be wearing at pickup that pushed Peter over the edge.
They allowed you to pick him up in that state?
Yeah, correct. And he caught a urinary tract infection while in their care. And, this is probably evident why, being left in, faeces and urine all day.
Felicity knows exactly what Peter is talking about. And while she's ashamed to admit it, she says she would often cover it up when things went wrong.
We lied. We were made to lie.
What do you mean?
Because we were so short on staff, we often didn't see things that would happen to children, the injuries, and we would lie about not seeing it, because if you told parents that you didn't see it, the first thought of a parent was my child's being neglected.
Peter lodged an official complaint with the Education Department in 2023, prompting the regulator to investigate the centre. Felicity was there when inspectors started dropping in unannounced.
What would you think?
Oh, please shut us down. Please. I'd cry to them. And, the look on their face was just disbelief. It was like, oh my goodness, this is actually worse than it actually looks.
Did you ever have a moment where you were in a room full of children and you thought a child is about to be seriously injured?
I thought that was definitely something that could happen in the future if something didn't change. I thought there's definitely going to be an incident where something serious could happen.
Just 2 months after Felicity left the centre because of stress, something terrible did happen. In August last year, a child fell and broke his collarbone. The department finally suspended Angel's Paradise and would eventually rule the daycare an unacceptable risk to children. 23 findings were made against the centre.
I'm just going to read out a couple of things that were found.
Yep.
Infants placed in high chairs as a form of behaviour management.
Yes. If a child was acting up, it was in a high chair they go. If a child was hitting other children, it was in a high chair. It was just used to confine them.
That's essentially forceful confinement, and that it's just absolutely heartbreaking and disgusting to think such a young human is subjected to that.
Infants eating food scraps off the floor and lack of general hygiene.
Yeah, because of the amounts that children were being fed, and would still be hungry afterwards, and so they would just eat off the floor. The food would be covered in dirt because of the lack of hygiene, and so they were consuming who knows what.
It's just
disgusting.
Disgusting. Like you wouldn't. Yeah, you don't have your own house like that. So why is a business being operated like that?
After being suspended for 6 months, the New South Wales Education Department formally shut this centre down in May. But despite the shocking findings against the facility, it seems the owner, John Tanios, is not backing down. He's now fighting to have the decision overturned in court and has already re-registered the childcare business under a new name, Back to Basics Early Education.
Hello, John.
Hi, Dimity.
If you ask John Tanios...
How you going?
I'm very well, thank you.
Nice
Thank
to
you
meet
for your time. Nice to meet you.
The closing of his childcare centre is all one big conspiracy against him.
The allegations made were wrong. Things were taken out of context, and it was purely a witch hunt.
Do you think you deserve a second chance?
Yeah, I think I do. I think I do. It's been very difficult. I'd say that I've been on the brink of collapse.
Many would say this is not about you, John, this is about the care of children.
Absolutely, and the care of children was always good, regardless of working towards for my assessment and rating. Our day-to-day operations, I'd have to say, were second to none.
Coming up, John Tanios and his astonishing admissions. John, it should never happen. Children eating food off floors.
I agree. It should never happen. But it happened. It happened that one time. It may have happened 2 times, 3 times. I don't know.
This security footage is from inside Angel's Paradise, a childcare centre in regional New South Wales. It was filmed on the 14th of August last year and was given to us by the owner, John Tanios. The focus is on this child. The day before, the toddler fell and broke his collarbone, which resulted in the centre being closed by the state's education department.
He did have a fall. They said that he wasn't attended to immediately, which is not true.
John Tanios is out of business and not happy about it. He argues the child was not injured in his care and is fighting the department to reopen.
The department says it reviewed 2 full days of security footage when making that decision and found that after the incident, the child was distressed and crying and otherwise asleep until he was collected at 5 p.m. that day. Mm-hmm. He was not provided with first aid. He was placed in a high chair and not actively supervised or comforted for 20 minutes.
Yep. Not true. And I've got the CCTV footage to prove it.
So you're saying the department's lying?
Yes, I am.
It's hard to know because John Tanios isn't keen to also share the CCTV of the child falling at his centre.
Based on legal recommendations, I've been told to hold off.
Can you see how that looks, given that you've given us this footage of the child okay, but you're not willing to show us the footage of the child being injured?
I think the fact that the child is okay on the 14th speaks volumes. I didn't say that he didn't have a fall on the 13th. But he was attended to immediately and he was fine.
But it wasn't just this incident that raised red flags. Since 2019, Angel's Paradise had failed to meet national quality standards, instead consistently ranking as working towards the second lowest rating. Felicity worked at the centre as an apprentice and says she's surprised it wasn't shut down sooner.
We would fail every inspection, pretty much every inspection, or we would be working towards it, which we weren't.
You were never meeting national standards.
Yes, we may not have ticked all the boxes, but we need to go back to basics. We've had compliance issues in the past where you've got to understand that we're all humans and we're bound to make mistakes.
But making mistakes at the expense of little kids and their safety.
No, the children were never at risk. There was never a safety concern for the children.
The Department of Education disagreed, making 23 findings against Angel's Paradise. In a statement to us, it said the centre was an unacceptable risk to children.
Infants placed in high chairs as a form of behaviour management.
It's not true. It's not true. The child was never neglected, was never used as punishment, and they were always safe.
How often were you there watching what was happening inside your centre each day?
I'd have access to cameras, but I didn't go into Wagga much at all. I was reliant on my key personnel. There was no risk to any children in my care.
So I'm just going to stop you there.
Sure.
Infants eating food scraps off the floor and lack of general hygiene.
Wasn't something that happens on a regular basis. That was a one-off issue.
John, it should never happen.
I
Children
agree.
eating food off floors.
I agree. It should never happen. But it happened. It happened that one time. It may have happened 2 times, 3 times. I don't know, but it's not something that's common practice.
What if it was your children, John, facing those conditions?
Yep. If my child ate off the floor, I wouldn't be happy about it.
One of the most serious findings against Angel's Paradise was educators not having valid working with children checks.
That definitely did happen. I think it happened on 2 or 3 occasions. It wasn't supposed to happen. The applications were made, but we didn't wait for the response to come in.
Why didn't you?
My director felt that, I don't know. I actually don't know I don't know why my director put them on before the verification comes through.
Despite admitting to breaking such important rules in place to protect young children, John Tanios maintains he's the victim and will fight the regulator's decision to the end.
I'm on the brink of collapse. I've been without an income for almost a year.
He might cry poor, but in the year before his centre was shut down, the business owner made more than $370,000 in profit, and up to 70% of his operating costs were covered by government subsidies. Money made off parents like Peter Davis.
It's disgusting. He's essentially just seeing our children as a cash cow. All he's worried about is his dollars.
Yes, I wiped a lot of noses, and yes, I did.
Putting dollars before children's safety is an issue Marianne Fennick has spent years researching. A professor at Sydney University.
You are so well placed to advocate.
She says for-profit providers are at the very heart of the crisis facing our childcare industry.
We have a lot of evidence that has consistently shown that for-profit services are cutting corners, and the services don't have those conditions in place to provide quality and to keep children safe.
And whose fault is it that they've been able to run riot?
Governments have fed this growth. There's no question about that. A service's operations, 70% on average comes from government funding. So governments have allowed it to happen. Governments are holding up this model of provisioning.
Twinkle, twinkle, little star.
Professor Fennick says the safety of children is further compromised because of an under-resourced regulator. Centres are only rated on average every 4 years, and 10% of them are failing to meet national quality standards.
So there's no reliability in the ratings, which again puts the onus on families to be the expert to make these decisions about, is this service going to be good for my child or not?
She loved flowers. Her favourite thing was flowers. She was always smiling, and I pictured that smile always.
When Joseph Marigold and his wife Annette enrolled their daughter Ariana into the berry patch in Sydney's northwest, they had no reason to believe they were placing her in any danger. The centre was ranked as meeting national standards by the regulator and had all the hallmarks of a safe place to leave their child.
We saw it from the outside, looks great. Was in the cheapest centre as well. I was the first-time father, a first-time parent. I trusted the system.
That trust would be broken one day in August 2018, when Ariana was put down for her morning sleep. Instead of physically checking on the toddler, educators only monitored her through CCTV. When staff finally did attend to Ariana 3 hours later, she was unresponsive and rushed to hospital.
A doctor came and he said to us, "I'm sorry, Ariana passed away." And I had to scream. I didn't know what to do. I was just screaming and how I could leave her by herself. I was not there for her.
Not only they couldn't protect her at the childcare center, but they let her to be alone.
They left her alone.
An autopsy found Ariana's cause of death to be inconclusive, and the centre remained open. Curiously, the department rated it exceeding a year after the little girl's death. Crippled with grief, Joseph and Annette have spent the past 7 years searching for answers. And what they've uncovered is damning. 4 years before the baby girl's death, the Department of Education was warned the Berry Patch staff were relying on CCTV for sleep checks.
Who do you blame for your daughter's death?
My initial and foremost blame is the childcare center, the Berry Patch, but also the department, because the department knew about the safe sleep check back in 2014. Why this was allowed to carry out 4 years without any changes.
They failed. They failed so badly.
Joseph and Annette hope an upcoming coronial inquest will give them more information.
Happy birthday to you.
But regardless, their fight for the government to fix the childcare system will keep going.
This is not a childcare system. It's a risk-taking system that when you drop your kids, you don't know what's happening there.
Coming up, the shocking claims of abuse that finally compelled Canberra to act.
These are allegations of the most horrific and worst kind.
There is nothing about this suburban daycare centre on the outskirts of Melbourne that looks suspicious. But it's alleged these walls have been hiding a pedophile's despicable crimes.
It's devastating thinking that you were handing your child over for this to happen. It was like handing them a present.
For legal reasons, we have changed her name and her voice. But behind the shadows, Joanne is living a nightmare. Her child is one of 8 young victims alleged to have been sexually abused by Joshua Brown at the Point Cook Childcare Centre in Victoria's South. 2,000 more youngsters also had to be tested for sexually transmitted diseases.
Knowing what you know now, Joanne, how do you fathom it?
I can't. I honestly cannot get my head around that you drop your child off in a place that you think is safe, that has all these rules and regulations to keep your children safe, and then this happens.
Lawyer Jodie Harris has taken on the fight for many of the families affected by the Joshua Brown charges and is planning to launch a civil case in Victoria's Supreme Court.
What is this man alleged to have done?
He is alleged to have attempted to penetrate a number of very young children, as young as 5 months old, trying to insert his penis into a baby's mouth, that him attempting to ejaculate into a baby's mouth. These are allegations of the most horrific and worst kind. To think that the most vulnerable people in our society are being abused in a system that is profiting from their care is breathtaking.
Jodie says Joshua Brown should have been on the regulator's radar a long time ago. He was sacked from 2 childcare centres before starting at Creative Gardens in 2021. It's run by a company called G8 Education, a corporate giant with around 400 facilities nationwide and worth more than $700 million.
Had there been a register in place where a potential employer of the alleged offender could check that register and see where he'd moved, and perhaps it would have raised quite a number of red flags as to what's going on with this particular individual.
But there were even more missed opportunities to look closer at the goings-on inside Creative Gardens. A student educator first lodged a complaint about staffing ratios and safety of children back in 2022.
So as at 2023, Creative Gardens were meeting standards. That's somewhat extraordinary in circumstances when August 2022, we have a report being made to the regulator about concerns about staffing levels and that was not investigated.
How was that complaint handled?
The complaint wasn't handled. The complaint was received by the department, but it wasn't acted upon. Had that complaint been acted upon at that point in time, who knows how many children may have been saved from this.
Joshua Brown is facing more than 70 criminal charges relating to child sexual abuse. And as Joanne prepares to face her child's alleged pedophile in court, she's adamant G8 must also be held to account.
My anger is a lot towards the owners of the daycare. It is these multi-million-dollar people that sit up there and maybe not allow, but let this happen because it's all about keeping that dollar in their pocket.
For all its horror, it's the case that finally jolted the federal government into action. The Education Minister, Jason Clare, has announced sweeping reforms.
And we've all got to step up here if we're serious about keeping our kids safe. That means the Australian government stepping up.
Including cracking down on centres not meeting national standards, more spot checks, and a national register of childcare workers.
Minister, why has it had to come to this for the government to act?
Well, the short answer is it shouldn't. You know, let me be very blunt. We've taken some action here to make our centres safer, but not enough and not fast enough. If I had a magic wand, everything that we've now announced would have happened 10 years ago.
You're investing $189 million over the next 4 years. Are you just throwing money at it without actually addressing the heart of the problem here?
Well, the heart of the problem is that a lot of our kids aren't safe.
Yes, but while ever you've got private providers running the show, isn't greed always going to come before quality of care?
And I don't care if you're a for-profit provider or a not-for-profit provider, but I tell you what, for a lot of these operators, money talks. And we invest $16 billion of taxpayer money into childcare centres every year.
Isn't that the problem, though? You've been propping up these private providers for so long.
And what the legislation says is, if you don't meet the standards, you don't get the money. That's why I say money talks. And now the message is really clear. I'm not mucking around here. If you don't meet the standards, you don't get the funding, the centre doesn't operate, you don't make any profits.
Marianne Fennick, a professor of early childhood education at Sydney University, says while the government's reforms are welcome, many are reactive and won't address the core of the problem. She says the entire sector needs a radical rethink of how we care for our youngest children.
If you're going to build a house, Dimity, you're not going to do a poor foundation and make fantastic paint and, you're going to make sure that foundation is strong, is robust, okay? When we have such a high reliance on large for-profit providers, that foundation is susceptible, it's weak. It doesn't matter what regulation you have, the foundation needs to change.
Will there ever be a day where this sector is dominated by not-for-profit centres?
Oh, we need more not-for-profits, without doubt.
Kick your legs, kick your legs.
And more young childcare workers like Felicity. She says the first step in fixing the system is to rebuild trust. Starting with staffing centres with trained and passionate educators like herself. She hopes to one day run her own daycare centre and help create a future where every child's best interest is at heart.
What's your warning to parents about childcare?
Trust your child. If your child doesn't like being there, you need to listen to that. There's something going on. Children know. They know. It's amazing how much children can see and feel just with their bodies, and just amazing. So I would just say, trust your children.
They're precious, aren't they?
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
On this week's 60 Minutes podcast, Extra Minutes, making sense of the complicated rules and regulations around childcare.
And it's extraordinary that these business owners are being propped up so much by the government. Because at the end of the day, those for-profit providers can say, well, we're staying within the rules. But it's the rules that aren't working.
That's Extra Minutes, available now on the 60 Minutes Australia YouTube channel.